and a couple folks more. So we started this journey about 2 years ago, I think so. We got, like Josh said, we got a bunch of money coming in. What do we need to do? So somebody said Agile. Say, oh boy, how are we going to do this? So right now we seek some help. So the nice thing is that management is all the way behind us into going Agile. So we actually have Jason Tanner here today. He was first guy that came into the deal to talk about Agile with us, which is really interesting. So we'll start this off. A little bit about me. My name is Richard Cole. I'm the Scrum Master at Dude Solutions. I think of myself kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi Knight, fighting, the dark side. But reality is that I don't look as good. So this is about the Agile Donut. According to our resident doctor, Dr. Peps, it's a framework. So it's a framework. So that's kind of going on with that. We'll go with that. What is it? What kind of framework is this? It's minimum viable scaling for us. So we can't talk about Agile without looking at the Agile Manifesto. To me, this is the core of everything. Even though it's been around for over 15 years, I think it is still relevant today. It has 4 main values and 12 principles in it. If we look at the first 4 values that's on there, anything towards the left or right of me is where we value more than the things that's on the left of me, right? So what does this mean? Now, to me, this is what it means. It's about the people, right? It's a group of people coming together using a simple process. Don't overcomplicate things. To deliver value, iteratively, based on feedback. That's what it means to me. It's a mindset. In reality, it's all a mindset. Right? So how do you feel this mindset? So for us, we have 2 concepts that we use to help our engineers, to help people that we brought in that mindset. So the first one we're going to talk about is MVP, right? So MVP is minimum viable product. What we want to do is bring value to our users as often as we can, as quickly as we can. We don't want them to wait for 2 years before they get anything of value. So MVP for us is iteratively delivering value to our clients, right? So imagine if the problem is to a mode of transportation. If you're trying to solve a problem for our users to present them a mode of transportation, we don't wait 2 years and give them a car, right? Well, let's solve the problem up front. Let's start with a skateboard, small, right? And then along the way, you iterate on those, and then you eventually get to the car, right? When you get to the car, it's all based on feedback, right? So iteratively delivering value. The next is the concept of the fog. So if you're driving in a fog, what do you see? Things that's far away, you can't see. You can't tell what it is, right? It could be a car, it could be a tree, it could be a house. You just see a shape. What's closest to you, what's in front of you, you see that. You know what it is, right? As you get nearer, it becomes clearer. So for us, we use it in how we plan. We know things that's far away. We can't know every detail about it, but we do know what's closest to us. What's closest to us, we have more clarity around it. So for our planning, we use it a lot, right? So we talk about scaling. What does scaling means? So for us, we look at 2 things. Horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling means that we want to stand up teams as quickly as we can, right? Stamping them out, right? The further right on the axis you go, the more teams you're going to have. Next one I talk about is vertical scaling. So what is vertical scaling? It's upstream, right? Not just at the team level, let's bring it up the next level and further up the chain, right? So team portfolio strategy, think about it as food for the teams, right? You have to have input for the team so they can produce output. Garbage in, garbage out. If you want your team to produce great stuff, you gotta feed them great stuff. All right, so that to us is upstream. So we work on getting good input every level as we go up. Right? So it's a transition, it's a transformation, it's a mindset. So garbage in, garbage out. This is our journey from a point zero. So we're going to go through all this journey. We started at ground zero. We had nothing. No people, no process, no tools, nothing. So the key for transitioning and transformation for Agile, in my mind, and what works for us, is getting Agile leadership. So we had to go out and hire. So we hired these 2 people. A lot of problems. It's been fun. It's been a great journey. So we had to go out and hire people, right? We got Agile leadership people in place. We need teams to come in, so we hired. So once we get a team in place, what do we use? So we use Scrum. Scrum is our core. Scrum is the basis for what we do. It is simple. It works. That's our donut, right? That's the donut itself, the base of it. Every one of us have donuts. Does everyone know? Does everyone know what a donut is? I'm pretty sure everybody knows what a donut is, right? But if I would ask you, what's your favorite donut? We all have different donuts that we like. I like chocolate sprinkled donuts, right? But you all may have different things, right? But what is it? It's still a donut, right? So at the core, it's still a donut. It's still Scrum. The core for the Agile donut framework is a donut. What happens when we have more teams? How do we get them working together? How are they working in sync? How do we solve this horizontal shift that we just get on? We start with one team, now we go to the next team. So Josh, I can say Spotify, yes. Big fan. Yes. So Josh brought this along, the Spotify model. We look at that and say, well, how can we adopt that? What does it mean to us? So all these fancy words in there, tribes, chapters, guild. So what we did was we look at that and say, well, squad to us are teams, right? So we took on that and said, and now you were here, anytime you talk to us, we call it squads. Essentially just teams. Tribe. Tribe is a collection of teams, so the squads. So we have a tribe here in Cary, North Carolina. This whole group is a tribe. We have multiple tribes right now. We have 3 tribes in total that's running right now. And the other thing that we adopted was chapter, the notion of chapters. So chapters are people with similar expertise, right? So we started with 2 chapters, the platform chapters and the QA chapters. These are the people who's going to help us standardize QA stuff. How do we get people working on the platform, getting in the right direction? So we use that. Now we did not follow everything in Spotify. If you look in on what Spotify say about how they do it, we didn't implement everything. All right, we just took what works for us at this point. So essentially we took Scrum, we added Spotify on top of it. It's the chocolate on the donut, right? So now we just added something to it. Well, it's great. You got teams running. Where are we going? Do we know where we're going? What's our destination? How do I get our team focusing on the right thing. So we look at SAFe. SAFe has the concept of release train. So well, that's great. What is it? I don't know. Well, let's ask somebody. So we asked this handsome gentleman, Bob Galen. He's not here today. So he came in and helped train us, right? He talked about release training. He came in this session with us, right? So it's really great. So this is moving a step up, right? So you got your teams running. Well, now feed the team a little bit more stuff. So this is the next level up, right? You got teams running. You know where you're going. How do we get them engaged and communicating along the way? So somebody mentioned Scrum of Scrums. So we look at that. Cross squad.
You gotta yell it.
Cross squad. They pick on me every time because I have to yell it every time. But it works. When I'm not here, somebody actually yell it in front of me. So it's really cool. So the concept of cross squad, imagine you have donuts in your hands. 6 donuts, 12 donuts. How do you carry them in the same direction? Keeping them all up, you got donuts dropping everywhere. Put them in a box. If you put them in a box, it's easy to carry, right? All in one direction. So for us, this concept of cross squad is similar to that. We get representative from each squad to talk and represent themselves as a whole. So we have a concept of cross squad stand-up. At the end of our daily stand-up, we have representative that shows up, that pulls the board. We have rolling boards, and then we talk the 3 things, same things, right? What did the squad did before, what the squad is working on now, and the impediments. All right, so we're sharing this information among the different squads. So this allows us to look for dependencies, any gotchas that we have to watch out for. So we're doing that. Now, not just that, so we took the cross-squad concept a little bit further. Cross-squad planning. So we have squads that run sprint planning, right? Well, we are a tribe. We need to know what we're all doing. So what do? At the end of our sprint planning, we have a cross-squad planning. So everybody is here in this room. The squad will come out, pull their board in the front, and talk about what are they going to do in this coming sprint. They will also talk about the tries they're going to do. What did they learn from previous sprint? Right? They're going to talk about any cross dependencies. Hey, we need help on this. Or hey, it looks like you guys are doing this, but maybe you need to hold off because we're working on something else, and that might, affect what you guys are going to work on. So we have that concept of cross-squad stand-up, cross-squad planning. As we move along further, we added 2 more chapters. The front-end chapters and the UX chapter, we spin off. Squad number 3 came on board. Next thing we ran into was release planning. At this point, we run probably 2 release plans, and people were getting confused. We don't know what it means. We had confusion. We struggled with that because we were not releasing. Well, we call it release planning when we're not releasing, right? So we said, scratch that. Let's call it PSI, potentially shippable increment. I believe it's the same thing come out from SAFe. I believe SAFe changed to this one after a while, right? So we look at things that we say, okay, well, we could ship if we want to. It's shippable increments, but the PO, the business decide when they want to release it. So we're ready. So business will say, hey, yep, it sounds like you have all the features we needed. It's MVP, let's go for it. All right, so for us, it's PSI. We gotta feed good stuff to the team to produce good stuff, right? You want good things going in, good things coming out. So next thing we added to this was roadmap planning. Five levels of planning. When we start this journey, when we start learning about Agile, I often hear things like, it's Agile, you don't need planning. It's chaos, you just run whatever you got. There's no framework, nothing like that. Don't adopt any of those things. Just go at it. All right? That's not true. You actually do more planning in Agile than you do in Waterfall. Waterfall, you do planning up front. You take what you got, you measure against it at the end of it. Right? In Agile, it's iterative. You're planning regularly. You're planning a lot more. More iterative, more feedback, right? So if you look at it, we took on 5 levels of planning, again, which is, I think, in SAFe has this as well. We didn't do all of it. We didn't say we're going to take all of it, we're going to just absorb it and run with it. We actually just do 4 levels right now. Okay? So if you look at sprint planning and daily planning, that is Scrum. The PSI planning, we're running that every 2 sprints. Kind of like donuts rolling down the conveyor belt. We have rolling plans. All right? So at our PSI planning, we look out 6 sprints. We meet every 2 sprints. Each time we meet, we tack on 2 more sprints at the end of it. Talk about concept of the fog. Things that are near to us, right? The first 2 sprints that's closest to us, we kind of know what they are. Things are broken down. Further down the road, we don't know what they are yet, right? So it's big stuff on there. Roadmap planning. So we took on the concept of roadmap planning at a higher level. Well, it's great that you're thinking 6 sprints ahead, but business kind of plan longer, right? We want to get a big runway if we can, as far as we can, not too much, but we know it's the fog, right? It's big stuff. We kind of roughly know what they are. So we have a cadence. Every quarter we will meet. A group of people will meet, and who are they? The product owners, architects, scrum masters, agile managers. We meet, and we look out 4 quarters. Each time we meet, we tag on a quarter. Again, rolling plan, right? Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. This is high-level forecasting, high-level planning. Okay. We got all this process in place, we got Spotify in place, we took on SAFe, we took on 5 levels of planning. Well, what is Scrum? What's the best thing about Agile? In my mind, it's feedback, retrospective, right? It's not only in Agile. The first thing I did that I learned when I took on my MBA class was, well, do a retrospective on yourself. Reflect on it. Reflect on what you've done so you can get better at it, right? If you don't know what you don't know, well, let's go learn it, right? If you fall on something, that's fine. Get better at it. So as a group, as a tribe, what do we need to do? So we took on the same concept as in the spring retrospective. We call it the tribe retrospective. This occurs monthly. And we had a group of people that shows up, that meet and talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do to get there. So we are product owners, scrum masters, chapter leads, architect, agile managers represented in this retrospective. So this way we get feedback all the way from the squad that's running, all the way up to the tribe, and we can work it as a tribe. In August, we had something new. Business said, hey, you guys are doing good. Well, we need something else. We want to know how much it's going to cost us. Like, what? Why? Why do you need to know how much it costs you? So we asked why a lot. They say they want to know ROI. ROI, return on investment? Really? How do we get that? So we need to figure out the cost. How does Great Fisher, how does Weather Channel, how do they predict the path of a hurricane? So we look at that. How do they do it? It's pretty accurate in my mind. When is it the most accurate? Yesterday's weather. Today, right now, right? If you go down 3 days from now, is it accurate? No, you have a range. You have a path, right? It's kind of might hit left or right, but maybe in the middle. So they gave you this path, they show you this path. How did they do that? So we want to forecast using what we have. Let's not overload this process. We don't collect hours. We don't do any of this stuff. I don't want any of this stuff. Let's do something simple. So we look into that and says, what if we look at something from Six Sigma? Six Sigma uses data, right? They crunch a lot of data to help them do the process improvement. But what if we can do the same thing? So during our roadmap planning, the group of people size the epic objective. You should size them, small, medium, and large. What does this mean? So as we go down, once to the point of your backlog refinement, you have story points against stories, right? Stories relates to epics. Well, cool. If I look back now, yesterday's weather, I can say a epic of a size small runs 10 points, for example. Well, over time, if you collect this data, if you have enough data, I believe 30 data points is all you need to get a normalized data, and you can safely say, I am 95% confident that for a small epic, it's going to run X points. Okay, how do we get the cost? Well, we know our squad's velocity, how fast they run. Well, that's fixed, right? Number of people, a sprint is 2 weeks. Cool. If your velocity is 10 points, well, you can figure out the cost really quickly. So over time, similar to how the weathermen did all this stuff to get better at their forecasting, we use data. So the more data we have, the better we're going to get, right? The more accurate it is. And it makes it easy. Right? We can say, hey, it's going to be small, medium, large, just a rough guess. All right? That's a sprinkle. Well, we got 4 chapters running. People are complaining. Too many meetings. I don't know where to go to. What are we doing? Are we writing code? Or are we just here to meet? So we had to look at the 4 we have to consolidate that. It no longer makes sense for us. We had to iterate. We end up with 2, the back-end chapters and the front-end chapters. Next thing we did was, as we grew, as we put on more squads in there, do we have the right people representing each squad? Do we have the right people at the tribe level? So we're doing this monthly tribe retrospective. Do we have the right people in there? Right? So we come up with a different concept. Squad captains. This is not an official thing. It is not a position. It is a elected, nominated role by the squad members. Every quarter, they can change. The squad have the option to change it out, to say we want somebody else to represent us. It doesn't have to be a senior person. It's just anybody they feel comfortable to represent them at the tribe retro. All right? So now we have squad captains that does our cross-squad stand-up. They are also the spokesperson for our cross-squad planning, and they're also a spokesperson for the tribe retro. Information flows out from the tribe, from the squad level all the way up to the tribe. Information flows back in again, right? So in summary, the Agile Donut framework, the scaling that we did, we didn't just go out and adopt what's out there, right? We took what we needed to solve the problem that we had. So we started with Scrum, which is our donut, added Spotify, Save, Scrum of Scrums, the 5 levels of planning, Six Sigma, we end up where we are today. Is this the end? Where to next? No one likes stale donut, especially me. So we need to iterate on it, right? We need to work on it. We need to get better at what we do. We need to get better at roadmap planning. We're not there yet. Our chapters. Is our chapters running efficiently? We consolidated. Is it running well? We're still struggling with getting UX into the squad level. How do we consolidate the work in there? We're still struggling with trying multiple things. We don't have it quite right yet. This is a framework. We have 4 squads. It needs to be tested. It needs to be flushed out more. How do we do that? We want to share out to the community. So the concept of donut farms, let's create more donuts, right? More squads, more tribes. Try something new. Does this framework work with remote Scrum? And we're trying that out today. Remote Scrum, right? No, we don't know. Let's try it. I love donuts. I love burgers. I love bacons. Have any of you tried this at the state fair before? It's not for me. Right? It's not for me. So when you take something that's good, you take everything of it that's good, and you put all these things together, they may not be right. So similar to what we do with this framework is that we didn't take everything with Spotify. We didn't take everything from Scrum and Scrums or from Save. We adopt what's right for us. This is what our donuts look like. Kind of like what Josh said. We don't expect it to be the same for all of you, right? If you were to take on this challenge, I mean, it may be different. If you look at it, each individual donut on there, it's still a donut, but with slightly different things on there. So our squads run Scrum at the core, but they do small things that's different, right? Some may have holes in it, some may not. And we're in the land of Krispy Kreme, right? End it with, this is a way to get in contact with me. There's a lot of information that we did not share on here. There's too much to share in 30 minutes. You can get in touch with me via email, Twitter, or LinkedIn. You will also find me at the Scrum Master Focus Group, the meetup for that, and also the Agile Leadership Network. There's also a podcast out there that talks about similar content.